We've been reporting on this show about what's been going on with CNN, and we know that Abby Phillips has been rising in the ratings because this show's become spicy. But it's also become tiresome, folks.
But ultimately, I think the court is showcasing deference to the executive, saying that, look, you're the president, you're over the military. You do, for the most part, get to sort of dictate the standards of our military. And I don't really see how you can push back against that. Again, we'll see what happens in the court.
I can. I'm sorry, I can. What if the president wakes up tomorrow and says, I don't want any black people in the military? Do we give deference to him on that? Well, no. No, wait a second. It's not ridiculous. It's not ridiculous.
I'm about to light her ass up, okay? Rhetorically, not literally, progressives, love you too.
Because you're discriminating against a group of people. I can. I'm sorry, I can. What if the president wakes up tomorrow and says, I don't want any black people in the military? Do we give deference to him on that? Well, no. No, wait a second. It's not ridiculous. It's not ridiculous because you're discriminating against a group of people in a very similar way.
Why come you couldn't say women? Why you couldn't say women? Why you couldn't say Jews? You coward. Why come you couldn't say Jews? Oh, because we don't use other groups like we use black people to make a point about anything in this country. We like using black people because you don't got any power in this country. I mean, that's really why, right? That's really why, right? Because no matter what you do to women, it includes white women, and white women are the second most powerful people in the country. Second only to white men, right? So all your feminism shit goes out the window because in reality, it was a lot of white women killing black people. Killing black babies, killing black women, killing black men. In the history of this country, y'all don't want to talk about that. It's just real life. That's why she uses black, because that's the go-to.
No, I knew you were going to say that, but
excuse me. Well, I'm glad you.
But hold on.
I'm curious. Why is it ridiculous? I mean, you just said the president should be the one who just decides.
Right.
So if he decides, he wakes up tomorrow and says, "I think it's bad for morale. It's bad for cohesiveness for there to be black people in the military."
You know what? Abby. I think it's time for you. I think it's time for you to be exposed for who you are too. Yeah, I think it's time for black media. New black media, it's time we go out to Abby and expose her for who she is. And I don't mean to be like, Abby, I don't think that you really have the standing with black Americans that you can make this argument. Just because you brown skin and from the islands doesn't give you the right to make this claim. So, yeah. Abby essentially doubled down on white lady stuff, which says a lot about who she is. And I think it's time we give her the business.
Latino people in the military, just in her hypothetical scenario, what's the difference between that and what we're seeing here?
They've been beating Abby and her people with a stick. When I say they, I mean Shamichael Singleton and Scott Jennings, have been beating the hell out of the liberals on this show. That there was nowhere else to go. I mean, they've done everything they could to defeat Shamichael and Jennings here, Scott and Shamichael. Listen, they've used everything they can use to defeat Shamichael and Scott. They grabbed the knife and Shamichael did a roundhouse kick and knocked it out of their hands and flattened them with a straight left. They grabbed their handgun and went after Scott, and Scott uppercutted them and rocked their dome piece. So they were so off balance, they all collapsed on their foreheads and their faces in the mat. Now they look at the shelf of weapons to go after Scott and Shamichael, and all that's left is that one bazooka. You know it, the black card. Yeah, That's what they got left, man. They're looking at the shelf of tools. And it's like, only last thing left is that black card, Johnson. That's all the Democrats got. They tried everything else. Nothing else worked. That's what this is about. I've been telling you, the only group of people in this country that have the moral authority when it comes to these matters are black people. That's why we get used so much. I know I got goofies that say things like, oh, but all of America gets screwed over. Not like us. Oh, not like us. We get to build America for free and then couldn't even own any of it. Yeah, totally different. Latinos and migrants get to send their money home. We didn't get any money to send home. We got to never go home again. So you can't compare the two. And it's like, it'd be different if Michael wanted to make that comparison. It's slightly different when Abby does, but when you found out that Abby's not a black American, her parents are not black Americans, they from somewhere else. It's like, you're not really rooted. I'm sure she heard growing up, stay away from Akata or something similar in whatever island dialect. You understand what I'm saying? You ain't got to like it. It's just what it is. These are conversations that I had about the poor blacks, about people that are brown skinned who are from other places. This is the real deal. We ain't going to be real here. So the Democrats now are reaching up on the shelf to grab the black Gap gun.
I mean, you just said the president should be the one who just decides.
Right.
So if he decides, and wakes up tomorrow and says, I think it's bad for morale, it's bad for cohesiveness, for there to be black people in the military, Latino people in the military, just in her hypothetical scenario, what's the difference between that and what we're seeing here?
I mean, are you really going to go down this ridiculous
I'm
sorry. Is she,
this is ridiculous. This is a ridiculous argument. Well, okay. The president,
what they've already
the president and the Secretary of Defense,
the president and
Secretary of Defense have an argument here. They believe that readiness and unit cohesion and overall operations of the military are impacted by this. That is their opinion, and that is the opinion of the commander-in-chief, who the Constitution gives broad latitude to run the armed forces. So that's their opinion. You're allowed to have one. You're allowed to have one. You're also allowed to run for president and become commander-in-chief yourself. But until you do, he's the commander-in-chief.
I have to just say, I didn't hear an answer to the hypothetical.
Yeah. I'll give you one answer to the hypothetical. See if you can stay with me here on this one, Abby. Being trans is an option. Being black isn't. Being LGBTQ is an option. And also, being LGBTQ is your own business. If you want it to be, being black isn't. At least not for 99.5 of us. I mean, Scott couldn't say it. I guess Michael could have said it, but I will damn sure say it for you, make it real clear for you so that you understand. I don't care if there's a trans person on the panel. That's what it is. And so, yeah, there's a difference.
Right? I just didn't hear it.
Though.
I didn't. I mean, okay. The definition of discrimination, according to the American Psychological Association, discrimination is the unfair or prejudicial treatment of people or groups based on characteristics such as race, gender, age, or sexual orientation. What is the difference between, prohibiting certain groups like transgender people from serving versus,
You gotta look. You notice, guys, here in this idea. Here we go. Notice, even in the point that even in what she's referencing here in discrimination, she has all these options. She could have used gender, age, orientation. She didn't. She used black. Why not? If I'm wrong, right? Because there's always people that's playing devil's advocate with me, like, Tim, you're always so hard on the black women. Not when the sellouts, not when they throw black people under the bus. Am I being hard on them? Am I being justice? Am I being righteous? Am I being real? You're just in your feels. Why didn't Abby Phillips and White Lady use age? Could have just used age. Why you gotta use black people? Because it doesn't have the same bite. Why doesn't it have the same bite? See, we start getting into reparations land. We keep going. Because at some point, you're gonna have to accept the disrespect, the disenfranchisement, the discrimination of black people has been a special blend that trumps all the other groups, what they've been through. So we are the gold standard of discrimination, the examples of discrimination in the history of this country. Anything else? Anything else would be, what's the Grand Poupon? I'm sorry. Anything else would be barbaric? It's a line for Grand Poupon. Damn, it's right there. I can't get it. So in order to make a point, you got to go to the highest of hostility. Got to go to the highest of hostility and go for black Americans to make your point, because we're the highest moral descriptor when it comes to this. No one's been treated worse. So you want to you want to really shore up and fight for the trans, compare them to the blacks. Yeah, you trying to do us like you did black people. I didn't know trans people built America for free. I didn't know that happened. I didn't know trans people weren't able to buy property. How would you even know they're trans people? How would you even know? I know they were redlined out of owning certain property in certain locations. I didn't know that happened. When did that happen? People were experimenting on them to find out, causing them to die, infecting them intentionally with the purpose of finding out how they would die if they had a disease like syphilis. I didn't know that happened to trans people. There's just no comparison. But they make the comparison because they're the Democrats, man. I tell you, when I look into a camera and I tell people the Democrats to me are the worst party, the worst group, we got people that say that they understand and get it. They don't get it. I could do a segment like this and they still won't get it. They will say they get it. Theoretically, they get it, but emotionally, inside, internally, they do not understand. They just don't. Segments like this really bring it home. Abby Phillips could have went anywhere, but she didn't go with gender or age or orientation. She went right to black. And she could have went to any race. Why does it have to be black? Why not Asians? We had an Asian exclusion law. Don't people always compare how hard Asians had it and say, why come black people can't be as successful as Asians? Why not make the comparison to Asians? Why not say, hey, what if Trump woke up tomorrow and said, no Asians can be in the army or in the armed services? Why not make that moral argument? And the reason why, once we go back and forth like 5 rounds of you trying to deflect, we'll get to it. And that is, there is no other group who carries the legacy of discrimination quite like black people. That's why. And even when you make your arguments to cheapen our disenfranchisement, the racial wealth gap, and all the other issues that we deal with in this country, you cannot deny there is a difference. Because when you're reaching for the weapon off the shelf to make your argument, you don't choose the Asian gun. You don't choose the gay gun. Or even the Jewish gun. You choose the black suffering gun. Put that sucker on your shoulder and you aim it and you shoot. Not unlike Jesse Ventura in The Predator with that gun that spun and spun and spun it. Yeah, that's that black gun, ain't it? All right, folks, let me know.
Characteristics such as race, gender, age, or sexual orientation. What is the difference between, prohibiting certain groups like transgender people from serving versus, people based on their race or even their gender, frankly?
I personally think there's a difference, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
The other problem, Scott, is that it's never enough. It's bathrooms today. It's sports today. It's sports tomorrow. It's the military today.
No, it's also sports today, by the way.
Yeah, it is sports today. And
80% of Americans agree, by the way.
Oh, that's fine. And 80%, guess what? The majority sometimes is wrong. That also happens, right? Because the majority used to believe that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was somebody who was a threat, that somebody who was not a good American. The majority of people used to be against civil rights. Were they right? No, they weren't. And so
I would say, Sigler, that you're losing an argument is that all you're going to do is go for that black gun on the top shelf. You and Abby and White Lady just proved it. You got no argument. Yeah. You just got some talking points. And when you run out of those talking points, you have not trained successful, Grasshopper. Yeah, you did not learn monkey style and crane style and whatever other move. I mean, you didn't get your Taekwondo belt. Whatever, you didn't learn how to train with the size. Your nunchuck game is weak. And at the end of the day, you got nothing else to do. You got to reach for at the top of the shelf and go get the black gun. Now you're using the MLK gun, the civil rights gun. Hey, black people had to suffer. Oh, black people had it bad, and so do the trans. Or you could just wear a dress, come home, and put on pants in your privacy, your own room or your own house, and still have a great house on the best block and send your kids to the greatest place and keep your business indoors and no one would know. But see, black people never had that. Martin Luther King Jr. himself said the difference is the black man wears his on his skin. Other groups were able to hide theirs. How disrespectful for Jemele Hill and Abby Phillip to do that. It's one thing for a white lady to do it. This cheap shot is lazy. It lacks creativity. It also lacks having a relevant point. What lazy sloths. What a group of lazy chubbies running around. Come on. Horrible. And at the end of the day, folks, we need to hold them accountable for it too. And I'm not saying cancel them, but let them hear about it. Share this segment and share it proudly. Let them know the days of using black pain to help your damn party are over. And every time you do it, there will be consequences and repercussions. Signed, Black America. Perfect. You made it to the end of the video. I appreciate you. Now, Google thinks this next video is going to be perfect for you. It's right up your alley. So click the next video, watch that with me, and let's keep this politics going. You're built for this.